Hello. Today I want to walk you through some of the creative tools inside everything ebooks, specifically Scenecraft. Not all the normal editing and typing. They let you go way beyond plain text. We're talking about making your stories feel more like an experience with images, audio, scroll driven scenes that pull a reader right into the world you've built, kind of. Of course, it's best to have written and edited your story thoroughly before adding any of these shiny bits. So, mm, I can't scroll. There we go. So, let me get rid of that. Everything in everythingebooks.org happens on your computer. There's no accounts, no cloud, no subscriptions, none of that. You and your manuscript, and you're inside an ebook from the get go. So here's just the library page. We're going to not go over that. We're going to go diving straight into authors. So in authors, right away, since I wasn't working on a book already, you'll see you're in an ebook. I could go ahead and click send ebook to send it back to the library. Let's do that real quick. And then I click library, and there it is. So, like, right away, you're in an ebook, and what you're gonna end up with is an ebook, except in the case of Scenecraft, which you will end up in a HTML page. So let's do open, load from library, since I already have my most recent book there that I've been working on diligently to get this right. So I've opened Vapo and Cram, which is a comic book from a long time ago. Me and a friend did. Wow, this is really tough to get this to scroll. So we're in the book. We're in author's mode, as I call it, because it says slash authors up there. And just so you know, if you were to disconnect your Wi Fi and internet right now, this would all still work because it doesn't require the website's just kind of there to hand you some software and off it goes. So for some reason, I got a word count for this whole book. Let's look at the first chapter, which has all the bells and whistles. And then we'll look at how these got here and what they are a little bit. But plus in this editor means insert. Oh, also you can collapse this so you have the most typing space that you need. But I'll put it back so we can see the chapters and scenes as I'm calling them in here. And then when you click the plus, you can add all kinds of stuff, headings, quotes, dividers, line breaks to break it up. But the new stuff is in visual narrative, like the two I'll point out is dialogue and sticky image. And what you see right down here, if I can get to it, is a sticky image. On this side's an image, on that side is words that will scroll by if you have enough words. So let's click on Scenecraft and see how all that's set up. If you look to the right of the screen, you'll see wallpaper, ambient audio. Those are two things you can have in every scene. You can have some image in the background, and you can have some space noise or whatever playing on a loop. I also have transitions between the scenes, which I'm not sure that has much of an effect. But at the bottom here, you can have two ways to, and we'll see both, to do voice. You can have narration, or you can have a audio file like an MP3 file for each dialogue, and that's what I have here. If we look at that sticky, you can see there's an audio. I can control the volume, but to make this clear, let's just do the quick preview. This is just the one chapter. That little orange line is called a playhead. As you come through it, hopefully Let me double check to make sure it's working. Okay, I see the audio playing. So scene one, the awakening. So right away you get a little space and a little spacey sound. And now this is going to scroll in.
The vast silent expanse glitters with distant stars. Here we find Vapo, a gigantic cloud-like entity encompassing most of everything, an ethereal, glowing nebula. Cram, a tiny crab-clam-like creature with eye stalks, resides within Vapo.
Looks like we are back, Cram.
Where were we, Vapo?
The short of it is this. The Earther, who called...
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
I won't bore you with all that, but that's what you get with one chapter, one scene. You can do all those things. And I think I covered them all that can have audio with them. This is mainly about audio and images together. So let's go back and the editor, and you can see how they look in the editor, and all that's due to this again. You come up here and you click dialogue or sticky image, you get this stuff. This is a dialogue right here where there's no image, there's just a reference. It's almost like a screenplay, sort of, but improved. So let's see, what am I supposed to show you next? Oh, you might wonder, where those images and where did that audio come from? Well, you got a lot of sources for images and audio, so I won't go into that. You just got to get the ones you want somewhere. But when you get them together on your machine, you've got to upload them to here, and that's what this is. And you can see one of them is an animated GIF, so it doesn't sound that cool nowadays, but it'll look cool in here. So there's all the images I worked that page from, and now the same with audio. Wherever you get your audio, usually an MP3 file from somewhere, it could be just you talking and narrating what's on the page. You gotta put those there. You gotta upload them, have them all ready, maybe come up with some kind of naming scheme so you can match them up to the section or scene and chapter that you're in. Let's look at the next chapter. One of these is just narration. I think it might be this one. So then we come back up. We're in that chapter, scene 3, and we click Scenecraft. And yes, it is. I think, yes. And you see again wallpaper, ambient sound. I think that's some kind of signal. And a narration. When you choose narration, you can't have something per dialogue because basically you're reading the whole chapter to someone or recording it. Let's do the preview for this one, which ought to start talking.
Vapo's nebulous form subtly undulates. Cram starts to move, appearing almost playful.
That's him.
Let me stop that. Now, what you saw at first was the background image where he's spinning and moving. So you can have images without having the movies stuck in there. And the ambient sound in this case was like a mixture of space noise plus him uh, broadcasting a signal, for lack of a better word. And again, you can have the one big narration file and you can control the volume, excuse me. So let's go listen to a bit more so you can see what a narration one is like. Here we go.
Vapo's nebulous form subtly undulates. Cram starts to move, appearing almost playful.
That's imagination for you. What are you doing?
I am broadcasting my pirate signal inside your cloud.
What messages are you sending?
No message, just a signal. A pirate signal.
How is that a broadcast?
And then that's when you see that silence at the beginning or at the end, that's matching up with the scene transition, fade in, fade out. So we took 3 seconds to fade out. That should probably be shorter. Uh, okay, I covered the audio and video libraries and how they're used in this thing. So you got really three things you got to do before you start using Scenecraft. One, you got to write a story and some chapters, or at least one chapter. And two, you got to get your image if you're using them and audio prepared and upload it to here. And then you can go to Scenecraft and kind of stitch all this together. So that was the main event, I said somewhere in these notes. And you've seen the two major ways to use it, the sticky image and the dialogue, which is that right there, which looks a lot like a screenplay if you've seen a screenplay. And I did walk you through all of those transitions, wallpaper. So we already walked through this. Um, yep, per dialogue. There's volumes for each of them. I did that. You can even do a paragraph, put audio with a paragraph. So here at the end, I've shown a preview, and you basically are still in this ebook. All these things like Vellum, Atticus, Scrivener, Readsy, you always see the same three things. On the left is the sections or chapters or whatever. In the middle is where you edit. And most of them have a third panel over here, which has how it will look in a particular ebook. Now, this little app does not have that because it doesn't need it. You're always in an ebook. This is an ebook you're looking at, but you can edit it. So when I come up here, there's something called send ebook, even though it doesn't send it very far, it goes over to the library. So let's click that, and a pop up comes up. And then we click library to go over there. And sometimes you will have two of them because this one's old. So we have some options here, but let's just go straight to the main one, which will, when we hover, it'll say read enhance HTML. And this is where the Scenecraft comes in. But this is not just a chapter, it's the whole book. So we can light and dark this thing. Why you would, I don't know. You can turn the playhead on and off. You can download it to your computer as it becomes a standalone HTML file. It's just a .html file that you can give to anybody and they can read and listen to and look at in any browser. So let's scroll down. We should see a title page. Yep. Should see the copyright. Yep, if you do that. And then we see a table of contents that's clickable. So let's go to that fancy scene where it has an example of everything.
The vast silent
Back
expanse.
up a little bit. So we're in this silence. Not quite. I got to get below that playhead. Okay, now we're still in contents. We see silence. Scene 1, the awakening. So let's scroll in there.
The vast silent expanse glitters with distant stars. Here we find Vapo, a gigantic cloud-like entity encompassing most of everything.
And you
An
can
ethereal,
enlarge
glowing nebula.
the image to look at it. This
Cram,
one's pretty
a tiny
pixelated,
crab clam-like creature with eye stalks,
but it continues
resides
reading
within
behind that
Vapo.
image.
Looks like we are back, Cram.
That's two sticky images in a row. Same thing. It would have kept reading.
Where were we, Vapo?
There's Cram. Okay.
The short of it is this.
Okay, now we get to a dialogue.
The short of it is this. The Earther, who calls...
Notice how I can go back. I can listen again.
Looks like we are back, Cram.
Where were we, Vapo?
The short of it is this.
See,
Earther.
so it's kind of like, in a way, like a movie where you do the slider, except in this case, most likely you're just going to scroll down all the time.
Oh,
or
yeah.
up.
It's good to be back, and all I can be, I think. But what is a slip? I forgot.
Now we're going to roll out of that scene. And the sound should stop and become quiet. Okay. That's where you play with your scene transitions. But anyway, scene two, slip the creator.
Vapo drifts in his ethereal, cloud-like stillness, while Cram listens, eye stalks perked.
Well, Cram,
Okay, so I think you got the hang of it. We are in right now an HTML file. We could click download and it'll process a little bit and then it pops up a place and you can put it somewhere or save it for later or give it to somebody, all kinds of stuff. You could bring it back up to a website that you have and host it as an HTML file. Well, let's see. What else should I show? Here in the book, you can read it this fancy way, but to be quite honest, the HTML is better to read than this fancy EPUB way. But you click this little circle icon, and because earlier you clicked send ebook and it came to this library, you now have all these things. You can download the fancy ebook, like if you're an author and you want to keep it around somewhere for later because you're going to update it or edit it, then you would use that to download that because you get everything. You get the images, you get the audio, you get everything. And then right here beside it, this little orange building, that's that's the typical .epub, which you would be putting up on, say, Amazon KDP. So you click that and it would download a nice clean EPUB that's ready for them to sell. What else do we have here? I can't remember what that is. Oh, that's the fancy ebook. And then if you're so inclined, you can look inside ebooks. This is like an X-ray, I'm calling it. So I think I covered most of the things. Let's go back to author for a second because this is an important moment here. Those three things are actually kind of created the moment you click send ebook. So when you go back to the library, there are really three versions of your book here. One is for an author to keep in the future. The other, um, the other is to sell on Amazon, and which is just a plain old ebook without all the fancy stuff. So I just want to recap that. You can also not be an author, and I'll find one somewhere. How about this one? It's a comic book. You could not be an author and just upload other ebooks that you have from somewhere. You can also go in and change them using author, but I'm not gonna recommend that. So I think I got it. The master EPUB, which has got all the fancy stuff, a publish ready EPUB for booksellers, and a standalone HTML that brings your entire Scenecraft vision to life. That's the workflow. And it takes a little bit to be prepared to do it, but there you go. Hopefully, this is helpful. If you have any questions, leave a comment. If you want to play with it, you just go to everythingebooks.org. No sign in, no account, no nothing. It's just you and your words. So I will say thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one because I could make lots of these, I think. But I thought this was an important moment in the app's growth, so I wanted to share that. So with that, I will say, bring back up our logo. I will say peace.